When I left Verizon after 20 years, I gave myself about 15 months of runway, 15 months to build a legitimate replacement. I got into a program, a good program, and it had me doing what everybody else says to do: create content, build a following, get enough traffic, leads, and sales to hit my income goals, the traffic game. So that's what I did. I created content every single day, 500 pieces of content in 14 months. And from that, I got one client. But the real problem wasn't the one client. It was how I was spending my time. I was spending all of it doing things I wasn't good at and didn't want to do. I had to get good at content creation, and that was not natural to me. I didn't wake up wanting to film videos and write captions and figure out algorithms. But the playbook said that's what you do, so that's what I did. And then one shift changed everything. I stopped trying to become a content creator. I started spending my time in the right rooms, online communities I was genuinely interested in, adjacent to what I actually offered. I built a system where content went from hours per day to 5 or 10 minutes per piece. And I spent the rest of my time doing what I was really good at for my 20 years at Verizon: building relationships, making connections, and forming strategic partnerships. From one partnership, 75,000, 15 clients in 10 days on part time hours with a wife and two kids. Today we're giving you three fundamental frameworks to help you stop forcing your time into the wrong model and start building a structure that produces time freedom by design. If you have real expertise, 10, 15, 20 years of it, and you're spending your time on things you have that have nothing to do with what you're successful at in the first place, this episode is for you.
Absolutely. And if you're grinding away at, content creation, funnel building, social media, things that literally have nothing to do with the skills that made you successful in the first place. And if you're someone who's, following a playbook that was written by someone who has an additional 40 hours a week, or maybe they have 60 or 80, or they're super obsessive, or they have a high level of executive function, like versus you only having maybe 10 or 15 hours a week. If you feel like you've traded one grind for another, except in corporate, at least you were paid better and paid consistently. And if you're someone who's, kind of watching your runway and your savings tick down while your hours are going up and your revenue really isn't moving, if your spouse is kind of seeing you disappear into a laptop every night for something that isn't producing results, and you're having that conversation more and more often, and you can really, really feel their patience running out. And if you're someone who's been really telling yourself, like, once I get this done, once I get this off the ground, I'll be able to be a lot more present. I'll be able to get back to that place. And that's really been the story for the last 6 months, 1 year, even 2 years. Like, this episode is definitely going to be for you. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine spending your time on the things that you're actually good at. Like, think about getting back to that point. Just being able to spend your time on the things that you're actually good at, the skills you built over your career, the ones that you actually enjoy, instead of having to force yourself into becoming just a content creator. Imagine a business structured so that 20 focused hours produce more than 60 scattered ones ever would. Imagine being done for the day and actually being done. Like, not lying in bed thinking about what you should be posting tomorrow. Imagine your family seeing you build something that makes you more present, not less. Imagine having time sovereignty, not because you earned it after years and years of grinding, but because the model was designed for it from the start. That's what this episode is going to be all about.
Here's why I can talk about this. I had 15 months of runway after leaving Verizon, 15 months of financial breathing room to build something. And I spent most of that time inside a program that had me playing the traffic game, creating content every day, learning skills that weren't natural to me, doing things I genuinely didn't want to do. And again, 500 posts in 14 months got me one client. The model was literally eating every hour I had. And then one thing changed. I stopped spending my time becoming a content creator and started spending it in the right rooms, doing what I was already good at, building relationships and strategic partnerships. I was the same person. It was the same amount of hours in the day, but it was a completely different use of my time. And now I'm building Liftoff Lab on part-time hours with my wife and kids, not because I figured out a productivity hack, but because the structure was designed around my life from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been on both sides of this, but I've definitely been on the wrong side of this more than once. Like when I was in direct sales, my entire life was built around being available whenever someone needed a presentation or a third party call or, some type of testimonial. So it was 5 to 15 live presentations a day because, obviously doing it live produced a better result, or at least we thought it did at that time. When I was running my copywriting agency, it felt like my clients owned me. They had my number. I was always messaging them back and forth, and it consumed everything. And that was one of the big reasons I brought that in for a landing and moved on. And I've been removed from this time issue for quite some time now. I live in South America right now, down in Paraguay. If you're ever down here, definitely come check it out. They have some amazing asado and they have tomahawk steaks cooked to perfection for like $25. But I run my own business on my terms, and I've been coaching people through this exact shift inside coaching companies for the last several years. Most of the coaching companies, they have their own systems and processes and frameworks that they want people to follow. But as I saw, more and more people were trying their best to follow these frameworks. And it's not that the frameworks don't work, it's just that those frameworks aren't usually in alignment with about 80% of the people who come through the door. So I found myself developing things and sharing frameworks that may have been outside of what they actually paid for, but it actually got them results. So it's one of those things where, we've said it on multiple episodes, but we want to make it super, super clear the overall dynamic. Like, I'm also the person who coached Ryan through the shift that took him from spending all his time on a model that wasn't built for him to spending his time on the thing that produced that 75K in 10 days. So we're not theorizing. I've lived it on the wrong side. I've built the right side, and I've helped others make that same transition. And we're here literally on Liftoff Live. And with Liftoff Lab being, rolled out and open for enrollment down the line, we're here right now to put things in place and to just give you the ideas, the strategies, frameworks here live so that you're able to have a better understanding of not, hey, is this my big break? It's like, if we start from where you are and we build everything around who you are, where you are, your values, and the things that actually align with you, it just puts us in a really, really great position. So that's really, really what I have on that.
I love that. LD, you said something to me recently that I think a lot of people really should hear. You said that you don't need more hours, you need a different structure. And when that structure is right, you have the right offer, the right audience, and it's delivered in the right way, that time freedom isn't something that you chase. It's something that just shows up. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can even use my military career as an example, right? Super quick. So it's one of those things where when I first joined the Air Force, they basically told me that I would be working on computer systems on aircraft. And I was like, sign me up. I like computer systems. I like airplanes. Let's do it. But I actually ended up becoming something called a weapons troop. So in wartime, you load bombs, missiles, and bullets. So you're not really doing a bunch of things as far as working on computer systems. Now you do, but it's usually the more senior people in their careers. Like, yeah, they've been around 10, 15, 20 years, a highly technical thing, right? So I was just loading bombs, missiles, and bullets for the first, 5-ish years. And I liked at that time, I would say I'm mechanically declined. So there was a lot of mechanic work, right? A lot of aircraft mechanic work in that. And long story short, I didn't really thrive in that environment at all because I didn't feel like I was good at it. It didn't align with me. I came here for the computer systems, and there was very little of that to be had. But then I made the decision to, cross train or basically change my job. And I went from being a weapons troop to being a contracting officer. And that put me inside of an office where I'm dealing with other people who need my help. I was able to, it was just a night and day thing. And I went from being a problem person, like just average at best, working on aircraft, to being an award-winning contracting officer. And I think that, when I was choosing my job then, I was looking for alignment. I didn't even know what a contracting officer was. I just knew that I wanted to be inside. I wanted a desk. I wanted my own phone. I wanted 2 screens. And all of this stuff sounds so fun. It's like, I don't care what I do. I just know that these things need to be in place, right? So it's a really funny story of, and a really innocent, albeit ignorant way of looking at it. But I knew that this time around I wanted alignment. And I think that when you look at, building an online business around your expertise and things like that, it's very, very similar. You have to find yourself saying, I know that there's a lot of ways of making this work, but we need to go deeper than just, I want 2 screens and this and that, because you have real experience. I was an 18-year-old, knucklehead kid just saying, I don't want to work on planes anymore, which I still love planes. And I love my time doing that, but it just didn't align. So I just made the best of it. So here's what we discovered in translating all of what we know about that into creating online businesses that make things make sense, not just externally, not just financially, not time-wise, but also internally. Because when things get tough, if things aren't aligned internally, you're going to find yourself not having as much energy, not having as much desire. You're going to be like the dog that doesn't want to be walked, instead of being the dog that is in pursuit of something. So, your time problem is not a time problem. Like, we look at time sovereignty as a lagging result, and I want you to look at it from that angle as well. There are things you need to do to get there, but overall, time sovereignty in itself is a lagging result. It's a byproduct of how your business is structured, your offer, your audience, how you deliver, and where you decide to spend your time and energy, those part-time hours that you currently have right now. And what we found is that when those things are aligned, when the structure is built around your life, your skills, and your audience in a way that genuinely serves them, not serves them in a way that you want to serve them, but it's a win-win-win. It's a win for them because you're able to help them get the ROI that they're looking for. Whoever they're serving, they're able to see a win, and then you're able to see a win as well. But it's one of those things where when they're being genuinely served, the 20-hour week isn't something you grind toward. It literally shows up on its own. And I know that that's kind of crazy to hear, but I promise you, it shows up on its own. But here's what we were doing. And what we see a lot of other people doing is copying someone else's model, right? Because when we're out in the market and we're looking for things, we're literally being pitched vehicles, right? Do you want to do Amazon? FBA? Do you want to do, sell Kindle books? Do you want to do eBay? Do you want to do, the consulting model? Do you want to do the agency model? Do you want to be a 6-figure freelancer? Do you want to, trade? Like, it's always the vehicle. It's never, hey, here's a community of people where we stop and we do the deep dive into what makes you you and what's going to make you happy, as well as what's going to make you a respectable and valued member in the market. And that's what we're really, really looking to bring to the table overall. So when you're copying someone else, you're following their playbook, right? And their playbook was written for their life, and they were able to have success with that playbook. And they're looking to duplicate that, but it's solely based on that playbook that never really takes into account who you are, right? And this is what Ryan did. This is what I've seen so many other people do. But he had 15 months of runway, right? And he got into a program, a good program overall, but he got in there. And most programs like this, they're gonna want to have you play the traffic game, because realistically, if you're getting more traffic, more leads, and more sales, it doesn't matter what you really had to do to get it. What matters is that if you're getting more of that, you're getting closer to the outcome that you want, which is creating full-time income and part-time hours or less online. So it's one of those things where, like, he was spending all of his time doing things. he wasn't really good at, and he was getting good at it. So shout out to Ryan for that. But he didn't really want to do that. Like, if knowing him how I know him now, he definitely did not want to wake up every day and say, all right, where's my tripod? I have to go create a bunch of B-roll and create 3 unique pieces of content every single day, right? But when the shift came, he stopped trying to become a content creator and started spending his time in online communities he was genuinely interested in. That's the key. We're not here telling you, let's go fish and let's go poach members from other groups. That's not what we're saying at all. And I want to make that ultra clear because, especially in the attention deficit age that we're in right now, people like to oversimplify things. And I'll tell you right now that that's not what this is. But it's one of those things where he built a system where content went from hours per day to 5 or 10 minutes per piece. And after he spent the rest of his time doing what he was already good at, from the 20 years of service that he had, building relationships, making connections, forming strategic partnerships. And I'll add this part is he was a good person. He just showed up as a good person. That turned into one partnership, 75K, 15 clients in 10 days. Same person, same skills, same hours in a day, different structure. And here's the thing. Even if you're not a relationship builder by trade, you definitely spend more time. You've spent more time in your career building relationships than you did creating content. Everyone did. It was just a natural part of it. So the 20-hour a week isn't a productivity hack. This isn't a remix of Tim Ferriss' 4-hour work week or anything like that. It's what happens when the structure is right. So today we're going to be sharing the 3 frameworks that helped us start looking at our structure differently. And we built them so other people could take advantage of this same shift. Because if you tried a bunch of other things out there, this course, that program, you've done this, done that, and just didn't really work out for you, it's because you were focusing on the vehicle first, using someone else's playbook. But today, and every single episode in Liftoff Live, we're going to be focusing on how can we get you to see what aligns best so that then we can build around that, because that's going to give you the best opportunity of being able to get this thing off of the ground and have that true lift off that you're looking for. So, Ryan, you had 15 months of runway, man. You could have spent that time on anything. Like, when you look back on that period, spending all your time on content you didn't want to create, getting good at things that weren't necessarily natural to you, did you ever question the model? Or did you just assume the problem was that you weren't working hard enough?
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it now because it sounds crazy, no, I didn't question the model at all, and not for a really long time at least, because the program that I was in, and you know this because you were a coach for it, had success stories. Other people were making it work, and so when it wasn't working for me, the only logical conclusion with the way my brain works is that I'm not doing enough, not doing it good enough, that I needed to work harder. I needed to post more, and it was just that it was a skill gap. Like, it was something I need to get better at. And that's the trap that and I think a lot of other people fall into, because the program wasn't bad. It was just built for it just wasn't built for somebody like me. And that's because I'm not a natural content creator. That I'm awkward by nature. I'm an introvert by nature. Like, those things, like you said earlier, I don't wake up every day and am chomping at the bit to go record videos of myself. I'm a relationship builder, as much as that was still forced because I'm an introvert, but I found that way and it's a lot more natural to me. So I spent 20 years at Verizon, and I worked my way up to leading product strategy with companies like Apple, Amazon, and Samsung. I was in rooms building relationships, making things happen through partnerships and strategy, and that was my zone. But the playbook said create content, so I created content, and I did get better at it. But getting better at the wrong thing just means you're more efficiently doing the wrong thing. And so it wasn't until I started working with you that someone looked at my situation from the outside and said, you're doing the wrong things. You're playing the wrong game. Your skills are relational, not content based. So get in the right rooms, which turns out I was already in them, and do what you're already good at. And so that one shift is what changed everything for me.
Yeah, love it, man. And you know, man, it's crazy looking back on it because it's like when and I you didn't need much convincing, but like when I got you to just start focusing on that, oh man, you even showed up to calls more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because and it wasn't because like you had traction or anything. It was just like this feels so much better. And I think that people grossly underestimate the importance of having aligned progress. Like you can make a sale doing something that doesn't align with you, and you'll be excited because obviously it's like, oh man, it worked. I'm making money, boom, boom, boom. But the reality of it is like when you're able to do something that aligns and you're making progress, like it gives you an almost infinite level of energy on a consistent basis that just wouldn't be there without it. So here's what we used to believe about time. And it sounded super responsible that most people just never question it, right? It's, I just need to push through this phase. Once I get the business off the ground, I'll get my time back. Grind now, relax later. And right alongside that, the reason this isn't working is because I don't have enough time between my job, my family, and trying to build this. There just aren't enough hours in the day. We've heard plenty of people say stuff like that. And yeah, I'll be honest, like both of those felt true. And that's what made them so dangerous because here's what we realized. It wasn't that we didn't have enough time. It was that the business model we were following was designed for someone with 40 plus hours a week with that extra time to dedicate to it. And it was being done in a way that aligned with them. Like when you look at the owner of that program, that aligned with him. Like he was just willing to put his head down and he was super excited because for him, he was one of those people with, extreme levels of executive function that he like he's like a robot. And I don't say that in a bad way, but it's like, hey, do what needs to be done. Traffic, leads, sales. Okay, results are coming out. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. How can we grow this even more? And he was good with that, but most people aren't like that. And I think that people grossly underestimate the importance of, knowing when to hold them and fold them. Right. So we were running a full-time playbook on part-time hours and, really, really couldn't figure out why the math didn't work. But it went deeper than just that. It wasn't just the wrong amount of time. It was the wrong use of time. And when you follow someone else's playbook, you end up spending your time getting good at the things that you were never supposed to get good at. We talked about Ryan and his 14 months of content creation. And keep in mind, it wasn't like he was just posting into the void. Like he went viral numerous times, like numerous times. And most people would consider that, quality levels of progress. But again, even him going viral multiple times pales in comparison to the skill set of relationship building that he built over 20 years, right? 14 months of going viral views wise still doesn't compare to 20 years of relationship building. So here's the principle. When you are genuinely good at something and you actually enjoy doing it, you spend less time getting the same or better results compared to doing something you're not skilled at and actually don't like. That's the double tax. You're slower and miserable. And the model keeps telling you to push through. So what we discovered is that the shift wasn't about managing time better. It was about restructuring the business around the things we were already good at and the way we could specifically serve our audience. Like I'm pretty good at copywriting, but you know what I'm even better at is like being able to take in people's information and situation, digest it, and provide a solution that we can get through together. I'm so much better at that than just writing really good video sales letter scripts and really good landing pages that get people to convert, right? Like, yeah. So when Ryan stopped creating content all day and started spending time in the right rooms, communities he was genuinely interested in, adjacent to his offer. That's the other part, and we'll kind of dive into that a little bit later. He built a system where content took 5 to 10 minutes per piece instead of hours. And the rest of the time was his to put into what he was already world-class at, building relationships, making connections, forming strategic partnerships. So the content creation side still happened. We're not saying you will never create content, But would you rather create 3 pieces of content in 5 to 10 minutes per day and then spend the rest of your time doing things that align, or would you rather that be flipped? Right? So when the structure matches your skills and your life, the time problem disappears because you're not forcing yourself into someone else's mold. That's the lagging result. When we fixed the structure, time sovereignty showed up on its own. And there's a piece around, having too much free time can be a bad thing. But when you have that additional free time that you didn't think that you had, you get to invest back into the other areas of life that were basically malnourished during your time of grinding. So everyone's trying to solve a lagging result directly. How do I get more time? That's like asking, how do I get a better body without changing what you eat? Right? Abs are built in the kitchen, not in the gym. Everyone knows that. And time freedom overall, when it comes to business, is the overall output. The structure is the input. There's always a way to structure things where it works for your life and heavily benefit your audience. These two things need to be true at the same time. And the likelihood that it's a unique way of serving them that no one else in the market is doing is going to be high because everyone else is copying the same model. I'm a firm believer that the majority of people are followers following followers following followers. And I'm not talking about social media followers. I'm talking about this person saw someone else doing this, so they were like, I'm going to follow that. And then someone else saw them, I'm going to follow that, follow that, follow that. What we're talking about is not that. We're talking about the exact opposite of that. We're saying you are unique. You have a fingerprint. It's called the law of the fingerprint. You have one unique fingerprint that no one else has. And when you start to look at that, almost literally, like you start to look at it, you get back to that childlike uniqueness that was so important overall, man. Like you have to get back to the point where you honor yourself for being unique and understanding that with a little bit of effort, we can create something that aligns so heavily with you that you struggle to sleep because you're so excited to get up and get back to work. So when you mix imagination with logic and curiosity about how you can serve your target audience, you start seeing possibilities that the copy and paste playbook never showed you. So Ryan, as someone who builds automations and AI systems, like what's the one thing most entrepreneurs are doing manually every single day that is absolutely destroying their time and they don't even realize a system can handle it?
Well, the number one thing, and it's not even close, is follow up. So most entrepreneurs are manually tracking every conversation, every lead, every person who expressed interest in their head or in a notes app. They're waking up every morning trying to remember who they need to check in with, who said they were interested last week, who needs a second touch, and they're doing all of that by hand. And the problem with that is that follow up is where most of the money is. Most people don't buy the first time they hear from you. They buy on the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth touch. But if you're manually managing all that, stuff is going to slip through the cracks. You're going to forget people. You're going to let warm leads go cold because life got in the way. And it's not a discipline problem, it's a lack of systems problem. A simple automated follow-up sequence, which is something that can be set up in an afternoon, can handle all of that for you. Someone expresses interest, they get a personalized sequence of touches over the next 2 weeks without you doing anything, without you lifting a finger. And now your actual time goes to the conversations that really matter, the ones where somebody is ready to talk. The second one is content repurposing. Most people create a piece of content and it just lives in one place. They use it one time. They spend an hour on a video and it goes on YouTube, and that's the end of that. But the same video could become a newsletter, social posts, clips, a blog. And with AI, you can do all of the repurposing in minutes. And so we've built a system together that takes one live conversation and turns it into multiple pieces of content across multiple platforms. And that used to take people a team to do. Now it just takes a system and an afternoon, if that. Most entrepreneurs are just leaving all of that on the table because they don't know it's possible or how easy it is to set up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And such a great example of how the right structure changes your relationship with time entirely, right? Like one piece of content turning into 20 plus pieces for us. and it's something that we can run, and we're both committed to like 20 hours a week at the max. You know what I mean? It's awesome stuff. So let's zoom out from our experience, man, and let's look at someone who's living this right now. Let's go ahead and pull up the Reddit story.
The first Reddit story for today is titled "I'm busier than ever, but my business isn't growing." So this is an online fitness coach who launched about 14 months ago. They're currently managing 28 clients, paying $150 to $200 a month, generating roughly 4,500 a month in revenue. We have a special guest joining us on the live right now. They're they currently manage 28 clients, paying 150 to 200 a month. Generating roughly 4,500 in a month in revenue. But there's a problem. Their hours keep climbing. 3 months ago, they were working 50 hours a week. Now it's closer to 70, and the revenue is completely flat. They say they're working every single day. They say they're working, every single day at 28 clients. The client delivery alone, plus the check-ins, the program design, the daily messages, demands 40 to 50 hours a week. And that's not even accounting for content, marketing, sales calls, or admin. So the model mathematically cannot scale. It's impossible. So every new client adds hours, and at some point, hours hit a ceiling and the revenue flatlines. So that is exactly what happened here.
Gotcha. Sweet, man. So let's go ahead and break this down while you get some time spent with the special guest. So this person has 28 clients. They're making about 4,500 a month, and they're working 70 hours a week. If you do the math on that, it's roughly about $15 an hour. And I'm willing to bet that they had a job that paid them better than that and gave them actual benefits as well. So the constraint here is the structure, like you said, Ryan, and they're in a one-to-one model where every single client requires their personal presence. And every new client adds hours, revenue goes up, but so do the hours. And at some point, the hours hit a ceiling and the revenue flatlines, right? That's exactly what happened. So they tried to grow by adding more clients to the same model, more volume, same structure. That's like trying to drive faster in a car that's already redlining. You don't need more gas, you need a different vehicle. And here's the enjoyment signal. This person clearly loves coaching. They love the transformation. They've been at it for 14 months. The problem isn't motivation. The problem is the structure requires them to be personally present for every single interaction. And what stands out to me is that it doesn't seem like anyone has shown them there might be a completely different way to structure this, one that leverages their coaching ability without requiring their physical presence for every check-in, right? Every program design, every daily message. So that's what we've seen happen when people copied the model everyone else is running, instead of asking, how could I structure this in a way that fits my life and still deeply serves me at a high clip? If I was going to help this person right now, I would definitely say that I'd want to see what. First off, I think that they're charging not enough, because if 20, 30, 40 clients, 28 clients is equaling $4,500 a month, I think that there's a way to provide more value to the clients that they would happily pay more for, right? And a quick example is, flying first class is one thing, and most people know what that looks like. But there are certain airlines out there like Delta and a few others. They have higher level first class packages where the airline will come and pick you up from your hotel, and they'll drive you right out to the plane. And people pay for this every single day. So these same first class passengers, because you're providing them more value, you're almost giving them a private flight experience on a commercial airline. And because they provided more value to that same customer, they're willing to pay 2 to 3 to 5 times more for that as well, man. So, Ryan, in this scenario, like, did you have any input on this one? And did did the boss have everything okay, man?
Yeah, so that was not planned, but it's actually a great unplanned segue into just reinforcing the advantages of this model and the fact that my daughter is homesick from school. Luckily, my wife is working from home today, so that's who she was hanging out with. But she came to find dad to get the hookup on the Nintendo Switch and turn Minecraft on for her. So, uh, unintended interruption, but a great plug for just reinforcing what this makes possible, right? Like if I was on, we're doing a live broadcast, so that's one thing. But in my former job, if I was on a call with the C-suite of Verizon or a bunch of executives, and my daughter was standing next to me on camera, that's an entirely different story. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's the update there. On the Reddit story, forgive me because I missed your analysis, LD, but I did have some thoughts, and apologies if any of this overlaps with what you broke down.
yeah,
But this one definitely, I think the math tells a whole story with this person. 28 clients and 70 hours a week. And if you take that $4,500 a month that's being produced by those clients, that breaks down to about $15 an hour.
yeah,
So this person is either leaving a job or trying to leave a job to build freedom. And basically, what they built is a $15 an hour cage that requires them to work every single day, um, way outside of what normal working hours would be in a regular job. That's not a business. Um, it's just a job with no benefits, no PTO, and no ceiling, no cap on the amount of hours worked. And I recognize this pattern because I lived a version of it. When I was spending all my time on content creation. Um, and the more clients that I wanted, the more hours I thought I'd need. That model didn't have leverage built in. So every unit of output required input in terms of additional units of my time, and there was no structural path to ever get my time back. It just would have continued to escalate and escalate and escalate. So um, the other thing that jumps out at me is that it's not a motivation problem for this person. They've been grinding for 14 months,
yeah,
and the problem is that nobody was available to show them that there's a different way to structure the delivery: one to many instead of one to one, asynchronous check-ins instead of daily personalized messages, or a community model instead of 28 individual relationships that they're managing by hand. So the structure here is an insane bottleneck, and it's not their effort that's the problem, not their skill, not their dedication. It's just the model.
yeah, yeah. I got you 100%. And for anyone who kind of feels themselves being in a similar situation, or you're looking at your current business model, saying, "Man, if things do work out for me, if I do get more clients, I'm going to be in that same scenario." Here's a super quick framework that you can use this week, and it starts with one question. We call it the model fit test. So, step one is going to be writing down how you're currently delivering value to your clients or customers. Not what you're marketing, not what you're posting about. How are you actually delivering the thing they're paying for? And next to each delivery activity, write how many hours per week it actually takes. Step two is going to be you asking yourself, and I would say asking AI, Perplexity, Claude, something like that. Is this structure built around my skills in my life, or did I copy the structure from someone else's playbook? Because if you're delivering one to one, when you could be delivering one to many, if you're doing live calls, when asynchronous communication would actually serve your people just as well, if not better, if you're manually doing things that a system could handle, the structure wasn't designed for you, it was borrowed. And step three is going to be about asking the imagination question, right? If I could redesign how I deliver this from scratch, knowing what I know about my skills, my audience, and the time I actually have, what would it look like? Not what does the market say it should look like? What would make this a win for you? What would make it a win for your clients? And what would make it a win for your schedule? Right? When you introduce imagination, mixed with logic and curiosity, you start seeing structural possibilities that the copy and paste playbook never shows you. Even our content plan is, birthed from what we just talked about. Like, I created something called the market penetration content playbook, and we literally took that where you could do one long form video and it would strategically turn into 20, 30 pieces of content. We remixed that and optimized it to be what we use now, and it fits inside a 20-hour a week work week, right? So again, we have a more in-depth version of this test, and it's inside Liftoff Lab. If you want more information about that, cool. It's not open yet, but you can either take the quiz. The link is in the description, and that's going to get you pointed in the right direction around this, or you can just get flat on the wait list. The link for that is in the description as well. And when the information is being pushed out, you're going to be one of the first to know about it. So, super, super important. So here's a few expert insights, because it's one thing having two, random guys online just live stream and running their mouths talking about X, Y, and Z. It's another thing to have, globally recognized experts basically singing the same song just in a different way. So Naval Ravikant said, escape competition through authenticity. So he said, if you're competing on time spent, you've already lost. The way to escape competition is to be so authentically aligned with what you do that no one can replicate your specific combination of skills, experience, and expertise. And this speaks to me through and through, because I now have years of experience just leaning into being authentically me. I'm a little weird. I'm a little crazy. I am overly optimistic, and I am highly connected still with my childlike enthusiasm. So it's a very rare moment where you're going to see me like not smiling, not having a good time, because I would rather be this way and just show up as who I truly am versus having to put a mask on or turn into a robot to be accepted in, certain circles. Right. So there's also Stanford research that, kind of talks about the diminishing returns of overworking. So the research from Stanford economist John Penkovel found that productivity per hour declines sharply after 50 hours per week, and output at 70 hours per week is barely different from output at 56 hours per week, meaning those extra 14 hours produced almost nothing. And I would say, if you wanted to fix that, you literally hard stop at the 50, if that's what you're doing, and you spend those next 14 hours regrouping, putting it towards those other areas of life. Do some jumping jacks, some squats, some push-ups, right? Do some stretching. There's a great app called Pliability. Like it's gonna put you in those pretzel places that you're not excited about getting into, but when you're done with the workout for that day, you're gonna be glad that you actually did it. Yeah. So a couple of more. When it comes to like corporate project management, like you already know this type of stuff from your career. In corporate, nobody runs a project by just throwing more hours at it when it's behind schedule. You reassess the scope, you reprioritize, you cut what's not essential, and double down on what moves the actual timeline. Ryan knows all about this. But the moment you start building a business, you throw that entire playbook out and go back to just work more hours. You've been the person in the room who says working harder on the wrong thing is still the wrong thing. Like most of you guys watching this have said that to someone. We know it, right? And that's a perfect transition into our next framework, because we didn't just throw time at the problem, we threw money at it too. And that's where the damage really, really compounded. So here's that second layer. And this is where things got really expensive for us in different ways, right? So once we realized that grinding more hours wasn't working, our instinct was to throw money at that same time problem. If I can't work more hours, I'll buy something that saves me more hours, right? Automation tools, a VA, done for you content, a scheduling platform, a CSM, or excuse me, a CRM, 15 different SaaS subscriptions. I'll upgrade to the Super Max plan on Perplexity or something like that, right? And it felt smart. It felt like progress, and we were just kind of grinding. Um, or we weren't just grinding anymore. Like we were investing. But here's what we actually found usually happens in that situation. You automate a content strategy that wasn't converting in the first place. I've seen this happen time and time and time again. Like I used to tell people, like there is more that's going to come from you doing more reps than me evaluating whatever content you've created and telling you what you can fix. Like we both firmly believe in volume. Volume is gonna wipe more sins away than like you taking a moment and going home. Like no, like you need some volume. You need reps, right? There was no way that I would have been able to make international basketball teams if I wasn't in the gym every single day, going to the weight room, working out, shooting 500 shots, going back to the weight room, working out again, doing basketball practice, and then finishing up with 500 makes before I could go home. So super, super important stuff. Here's what I kind of want to ask Ryan. You've actually built the AI and automation stack that we use now, like without giving away the whole playbook in this episode, because we definitely don't mind like sharing all of it. But what does it look like when someone has the right model and then layers systems on top of it versus someone who automates a broken process?
Yeah, so automating a broken process is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. And honestly, it's one that in the beginning I made myself. So let me give you both pictures because then you'll see the difference, and that's everything. So person A has a broken model. Their offer isn't aligned, their positioning is off, they're targeting the wrong people, but they're really smart and they're resourceful. And so they buy every tool they can find, they automate their content calendar, they set up email sequences, they build a beautiful funnel. They've got scheduling tools, CRM tools, analytics dashboards, and an entire stack, the whole 9 yards. And everything runs beautifully like clockwork, but it produces nothing in the end because they're automating a process that was never going to work in the first place. They're just uh, they're failing faster and more efficiently. And that was my exact situation. Like I was just describing myself during the content grind. I had systems, I had templates, I had a posting schedule that ran like a well-oiled machine, and that generated one client from the content itself in 14 months because the model underneath all of that was broken. Now, if we look at person B, they've done the alignment work first. They know who they serve, they know what problem they solve. They have an offer that matches their actual expertise. The model works manually, and that's the key. They've proven it by actually getting clients through real conversations before they touch any automations. And then, only then, they layer systems over the top of it. So now the automation isn't replacing strategy, it's amplifying something that already works. The follow up sequence isn't sending the wrong message to the wrong people, it's sending the right message to the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And LD's cracking up. 3 hours of automated work replaces 15 hours of manual work because the systems are scaling a proven process, not a guess. That's the difference. Systems will not fix a broken model. They'll reveal it faster, but systems on top of an aligned model, that's where you get to the 15 or 20-hour work week. That's where the real leverage actually shows up, and the order matters. That's the most important thing. Above and beyond everything else, get your model figured out first, and then put your systems in place second. Always, no exceptions. Like I said, I know it because I lived both scenarios that I just described.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So let's hop into the next story because I think it's a perfect example of, throwing money at a systems problem when the real issue is the actual structure underneath, man.
Yeah, so this Reddit story is titled 10 Years in the Game, Losing My Mind. This is a business owner with over 10 years of experience who started out doing the hands-on work, cooking. They were cooking in the food industry. They were really great at it. That was their zone of genius. They tried to scale. They transitioned from hands-on into operations. And that's where everything fell apart. And this is going to be the case for a lot of people who fit into, I see it. I've seen it in so many clients, right? They're so amazing at whatever their area of genius is, but most people are not amazing at operations, not even close. They're allergic to it. So 4 years into the scaling phase, this person is drowning in what they call a disjointed software system. They've lost countless leads because their pricing is higher than people they're competing with who have one person operations. And the kicker is that developers have quoted them 300 to 500K for the custom solutions that they think they need with no guarantees. That might not be the case today with vibe coding, but that's neither here nor there. They say that improvements need to be made, but their current circumstances hinder the ability to implement them. They're stuck. The tool stack has become the job, and the fix is going to cost more than most people's houses cost.
Yeah. So there are 5 areas that we're going to be, that I want to evaluate this one in. And I'll break them down real quick and then I'll give my answer. So number 1 is going to be self-discovery and positioning. And I'll, break these down. But number 2 is offer design and monetization. Number 3 is audience and relationships. Number 4 is AI and technology. And number 5 is the part-time architecture. Now, for this person, they may not necessarily want a part-time model. Maybe they do, because most people, it's like, if you could make $2 million on 20 hours a week, would you do that? Or would you say, no, give me my 60 hours a week, please, right? Like, you would likely say, 20. So for area 1, self-discovery and positioning, they know their craft, but haven't identified what specifically makes their business worth the premium over lean one-person competitors. Right. When it comes to offer design and monetization, like, they are not in a good place. Like, pricing is higher than their competitors, but the value difference isn't clear. So they're inevitably losing leads to cheaper options because the offer isn't structurally differentiated. Audience and relationships, they're competing on price in a commoditized market instead of positioning in rooms where their premium matters. AI and technology, it's a disjointed software stack is the main problem, right? It's the main pain. But throwing 300 to 500K at a custom solution when simpler integrated tools would solve 80% of the problem. Yeah, I don't know about that. And then the part-time architecture, the founder is the operations. They left their craft to manage software that they don't understand. No operating system designed around their true strength. So in this scenario, one of the biggest things is, and you brought up vibe coding. Like, I would say pause that conversation for the custom solution. Let's go back to the drawing board, and I'd want to know what about his craft or her craft makes, like, what fires him up. Everything goes back to self-discovery and positioning, because especially dealing with something like this, it's really easy to ask this question. Dude, like, if you could go back and make the same amount of money that you're making right now, but you could go back and do something that you were doing in the pursuit of getting here, what would it be? And I've had these conversations, and I've had people say, dude, I just want to make pastries, right? They're running an entire, like, food truck or restaurant style thing with a full menu, but deep down, they just want to get back to making pastries. And that helped us to influence, like, are you good at making pastries? Yes, dude. Like, that's how I got here. So screw this whole restaurant thing. Like, let's kind of maybe have 1 or 2 things that you don't mind making, but let's really dive in and go Raising Cane's simplicity on pastries, right? So it's that, man. Awesome stuff. And when it comes to an actual action plan, I think that we kind of really, really broke it down already, but we like to use something called the broken engine diagnostic. Super quick. Step 1 is listing every tool and subscription that you're currently paying for. And next to each one, write 1 sentence. This tool is helping me to do, and then list out that specific thing. If you can't finish that sentence, or you're going to end up finding that some of these are either going to be hard to finish or they're going to be super redundant. And it's like, well, I have multiple tools doing the same kind of thing. So you can make an evaluation off of that. Step 2, for the tools that remain, ask 1 question. Does this tool automate something that's already proven to work, or does it automate a guess? And I think you already know what to do with that information. And step 3 is going to be identifying the one structural bottleneck, not a systems bottleneck that, if redesigned, would make everything else simpler. It's like, for this person, it's probably not software, it's positioning. And it goes back to what I was saying originally. Why should someone pay pay their premium over a one-person operation. Like when the structure answers that question clearly, the technology requirements shrink by 80%, right? So that's super, super important. A few expert insights. Peter Drucker said, there's nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. Oh man, super, super important. There's a GPS analogy as well. So imagine you're driving to a city you've never been to. You punch in an address, excuse me, but the GPS has the wrong destination loaded. You're driving faster, taking shortcuts, running red lights, doing everything you can to get there quicker, but there is the wrong place. But there is the actual wrong place. You're not lost because you're a bad driver. You're lost because the navigation is wrong. And yeah, one more example. It's related to home renovations. It's like hiring a crew to renovate your kitchen before you've decided if you're even staying in the house. You spent 50K on a beautiful kitchen, then 6 months later, you realize the neighborhood doesn't work, the commute is killing you, and you need to move. Right? Like when you look at it from that angle, it's like, yeah, I would never renovate a kitchen in a place that I wasn't 100% sold on every aspect of it. So, think about fitness. Nobody says, I'll buy the best running shoes, the smartest watch, the most expensive gym membership, and that'll make me fit. Like everyone deep down knows that you have to use those things, but it's the work. And you don't have to, but like if you're going to buy them, using those things, you still have to put that work in. And everyone knows the first thing is, what's the goal? Lose weight, build muscle. Train for a marathon. The equipment comes after the actual program. And so as we hop into the last framework, I would say this is the one that kept us stuck the longest in our own like separate stories, right? The dream is autopilot, passive income. Build it once, let it run. The business operates itself while we enjoy life. We've all seen the playbook: build a funnel, create a course, automate the email sequence, hire a VA, set up Zapier to connect everything, and eventually the business runs without you. Like, yes, let's do it, right? But when it doesn't work, the second belief kicks in. I don't need someone to tell me how to manage my time. I just need more of it. Or I need someone to take things off my plate, right? Both of those point in the same direction. Stack more systems, add more people, bolt on more tools until it eventually is a business that is passive. And I know for some of you guys, it's like, dude, I'm not even there yet. Like, that sounds like a problem I'd actually want to have. but so let me, kind of address that part as well. You're like, dude, I just want more traffic, leads, and sales. And I promise you want that until you don't want it. Because if you get more traffic, leads, and sales in a broken system, it does nothing but like it's almost like that Chinese finger trap. Like you think that you're like getting better. You think that things are sweet for you. But as soon as you're like, oh, let's go take a vacation. No, you're stuck because it's wild. So here's what we found that actually, or excuse me, I'll put it to you like this. You can't see the 80% of your activities producing zero results when you're the one doing them every day. You just can't. It all feels productive. It all feels necessary, but the data tells a different story. Ryan's data told a clear story. And it's so easy to see it hindsight, right? 500 posts, one client. That's the data. And it's like, I failed at content. That's the narrative. When you can't separate the two on your own, you can't redesign your structure. That's where external perspective becomes essential, right? What we discovered is that time freedom doesn't come from stacking more systems onto a broken structure. It comes from building a structure that requires less by design, the right offer in the right rooms with the right people, so that 20 focused hours produce more than 60 scattered ones ever did, right? Ryan's 20-hour weeks aren't possible because of fancy automation. They're possible because the structure was designed for part-time hours from the start. Fewer moving parts, not because we couldn't afford more tools, but because the model was built to not need them, right? And the reason Ryan was able to see this because he had someone, hey, what's up, guys? Someone looking at his situation from the outside. I still remember that conversation like it was yesterday, man. And it's one of those things where when you started telling me more about like your professional background, like I got slightly infuriated, not at you, but just at the entire situation because you were well over 100 posts created at that point. I was like, dude, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but screw this, dude. We're going this way, right? And I'm super grateful that you were open to that, right? Because you weren't so married to the idea of like, well, this super expert dude told me that I need to do it this way, so I'm going to do it this way, hook or crook. You were like, hey, you know what? LD might be right. Like this makes more sense for what I actually have going on. So, he had someone looking at his overall situation from the outside, seeing that 80% that was producing nothing and helping him redesign around the 20% that actually mattered. So you can't read your own label from inside the jar. And I feel like I've heard you say that like so many times. So
I love that
Ryan,
quote, by the way. It's so true.
yeah, absolutely, man. So everyone wants passive income and automations, man. From your systems background, what's the actual difference between a business that runs lean by design versus a business that's just been duct taped together with automation to look passive?
Yeah, because I lived this in product management for several years at Verizon, it's something that I can't help but think about constantly. When I was there, we had products that were beautifully designed, simple architecture. There was minimal dependencies on like other systems or processes or people. Those were easy to maintain. And we had on the flip side, we had products that were like Frankenstein monsters, like that's putting it lightly, patched together over years, inherited from different companies that had been acquired and connected with, duct tape and wire. And basically, they were running on prayers. And every time you touched one thing, three other things would break. Both of these types, but like both of those systems that I described, they both worked, but only one of them was actually sustainable. And business models are the exact same way. The duct tape business looks really impressive from the outside. They're using 20 tools. They have Zapier connecting everything. They have a VA managing the automations. They have email sequences, chatbots, scheduling software, a CRM, a product management tool. And so it's like they have the whole stack, and it all sort of works, or it might work well until it doesn't, until one automation breaks and nobody notices that for 3 days, until the VA quits and suddenly the founder of the business realizes that they don't actually understand half of how their own systems work. And that business at that point is not passive. It is a house of cards with a really nice facade. A business that runs lean by design is completely different. It has few moving parts as possible. It's not because the founder couldn't afford more tools, but it's because the model was built not to need them. That's a critical difference. The offer is simple, the audience is specific, the delivery mechanism is really straightforward. The founder isn't managing 50 automations because there are only three or four things that really need to run. And those three or four things are built in a solid way. They're not patched together from 5 different platforms with multiple prayers in between. So the way that I think about this, if your business requires you to constantly troubleshoot the systems that are supposed to be saving you time, then you don't really have automation. You have a second job maintaining the illusion of automation. And real time sovereignty doesn't come from stacking more tools on a broken model. It comes from building the right model with the fewest possible moving parts and then only automating what actually needs to run without you. Simplicity is the architecture, and automation is just the finishing coat that goes on top.
Love it, bro. Let's look at someone who built an incredible business, 6 million in revenue, 20 employees, and is more trapped than the day that he started.
Yep. So this Reddit story is titled Burned Out, Stressed, Depressed, and Looking to Offload. And I want to call this out up front. This person is going through something real. And if you're watching this, listening to this, and you can relate to what I'm about to Read, please don't hesitate to talk to somebody because this is not just a business story. So this is the CEO of a $6 million revenue IT consulting firm with about 20 employees. He's running his company solo, as in he's the single point of failure for everything for nearly 8 years. He hasn't taken a single full week off since he founded the company in 2016. Not 1 week in 8 years. And for 5 of those years, he was holding a full time job at the same time. During that stretch, he was also earning an MBA from a top 25 business school part time while running a company and while working full time. So here's the part that hit me the hardest. He was mentored by someone who made building a company look really easy. And how familiar does that sound? Made it look like one person could do everything. And not too long after that, he found out that that mentor had two silent partners doing most of the heavy lifting. And that was happening the entire time. The playbook that he was following was built for a 3-person leadership team. He was trying to run it all by himself. He lives in a big house, drives a nice car. His dad is proud of him, but he says he's miserable and he can barely function at this point. His wife is stepping up now, but he says it's too late. He's considering selling the company, but it would mean walking away at roughly half of what he set as his exit goal.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So want to be respectful here first, because this person is clearly going through something, and it's real and it's heavy. So if you're watching this and relate to this level of burnout, again, Ryan said it. I'm going to piggyback it. Please go talk to someone for sure, because this is much bigger than business. And I think that this Reddit story really outlines, this is like a good case, all things being equal, because there are people that don't have 6 million in revenue, they don't have a big team, and they're literally working to the bone trying to get something off of the ground, and they never get to the point of shifting to the afterburners. Right, Ryan and I had like an internal conversation about this a couple of days ago. It's like, imagine going 150 miles an hour on the runway, but you never shifted to the afterburners to get things off of the ground. And I think that that's worse, because you have everyone around you just seeing you zip and zoot up and down the runway, but you're never getting any lift and getting off the ground. So, in his scenario, he should definitely take some of that money that he has, and he should invest into, like high level consulting around fixing all of the broken parts, and scaling things back, and taking everything that he has and figuring out what is that one part of his business that's really, really enjoyable, and scaling things back in a structured way over time. Because clearly, dude, you need a vacation. Like, you need a vacation, you need some time alone, and you need to, and not alone as in like solo, but like you need to get back around people who love you and spend, significant amounts of time reconnecting in that way. So super quick action plan is the lean architecture audit. Step 1 is going to be all about counting your moving parts, every tool, subscription, every person, every automated sequence, every recurring task that requires your attention. If you're like someone who's like, I don't have any of that stuff going on, well, you're going to want to look at what are the things that you need to do for you to start working on your actual business. Like, do you need to, like journal here and go for a walk and blah, blah, like all of these extra things, right? Step 2 is going to be looking at, for each moving part, ask one question. Would this still exist if I redesign the structure from scratch today? Not, is this useful? Not, did I pay for it? If I started over, knowing what I know now, would I build this again? Anything that's a no, you cut it out. And step 3 is going to be identifying the one person who can see your business from the outside and tell you what you can't see from the inside. This is not a friend who will validate your feelings, not a spouse who's too close. This is someone who has built what you're trying to build, and they can look at your structure with fresh eyes and say, hey, here's the 80% that's producing nothing, right? So super, super important. A couple of expert insights. One is from, I'm not even about to butcher this guy's name, but his first name is Antoine. Right. So he said perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. Super important. And I want you to kind of think about the cockpit of a commercial airplane. Every single instrument has a purpose. Nothing is there for decoration, but the pilot doesn't fly the plane by monitoring all 300 instruments at once. They focus on the key 5 or 6 gauges that tell the full story: altitude, speed, heading, fuel, engine health. Everything else is for edge cases. All right. Super important. And when you want to really, really look at simplicity, you should look at Southwest Airlines. Like when the airline industry was adding complexity, more routes, more hubs, more aircraft types, more classes of service, Southwest did the exact opposite. One aircraft type, point to point routes, no assigned seats, no meals. Those peanuts were clutch. Those like brown, like honey roasted peanut. Oh man. So no meals though. The result was the most consistently profitable airline in US history. Super, super important to kind of see things from that angle, man. So let's kind of bring it all together. Today we shared 3 shifts that changed everything for us, and we built a framework around each one so other people can take advantage of the same discoveries. Shift number 1 was time sovereignty is a lagging result. The 20-hour week isn't something you earn, it's something that shows up when the structure is right. Framework, it's all about the model fit, right? Shift number 2 is we learned the hard way: structure first, systems second, always. And the framework for that is the broken engine diagnostic. Shift number 3 is lean by design beats duct tape to look passive every time, right? We couldn't see our own structure from the inside of the jar, and that's what made outside perspective so critical. The framework around that is the lean architecture audit. So here's what we encourage you to try tonight. Step 1, run the model fit test. Look at how you're actually delivering value and ask, is this structure built around my life and my skills, or did I copy it from someone else? Step 2 is run the broken engine diagnostic. Audit every tool you're paying for right now and ask, does this automate something already proven, or does this just automate something that's kind of a guess? Step number 3 is going to be running the lean architecture audit. Count your moving parts. If the number is over 15, you have an operations job, not a lean business. And that is super, super important. Step 4, find the person who can see what you can. Not another course, not another tool, not a friend, not a spouse, someone who's built with what you're trying to build and can look at your situation from the outside. And if you want that person to be us, obviously take the quiz. Link is in the description. It's literally going to take you like 2 minutes. And we'll be able to kind of show you exactly or it'll be able to show you exactly where the structure may be misaligned. And if you already know that this is something that you need, definitely get on the wait list for sure. All right. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. The 20-hour work week isn't earned. It's designed. Your time problem is a structure problem. And when you become open to the idea of leveraging imagination and logic to restructure it, you put yourself in a position to have a massive breakthrough. When you're skilled at something and you enjoy doing it, you spend less time getting better results. When you're skilled at something and you enjoy doing it, you spend less time getting better results. That's the alignment advantage. More hours on a broken structure accelerates burnout, not progress. Automating a broken process just makes it break faster and more expensively. Systems don't fix a broken structure, they reveal it faster. The autopilot fantasy is a second job maintaining the illusion of freedom. Lean by design means fewer moving parts, not because you can't afford more, but because the structure was built to not need them. And lastly, you can't read your own label from inside the jar. I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
If this episode hit home for you, if you're sitting there and you're realizing that your time problem might actually be a structure problem, then here's what you can do right now. First, take the quiz. It's free. It takes 2 minutes, and it'll show you exactly where your business model might be misaligned. The link is in the description. Second, if you already know you need help redesigning the structure, then get on the Liftoff Lab waitlist. We're opening the door soon. That link is also in the description. And third, Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit the bell. We drop these regularly throughout the week. And the next episode, we're talking about the career transition, how I walked away from 20 years at Verizon with my wife and 2 kids depending on me, and why the thing that I thought I was leaving behind turned out to be the most valuable thing that I brought with me. I don't want to miss that one, and we will see you there.
All right.